Welcome back everyone, I'm Theo Joe, and it is once again iPhone season. You may already know that Apple has released 3 models this year, the iPhone XS, the XS Max, and the XR, and the one we're going to be looking at today is the XS, which I chose because I really didn't want a massive screen that I couldn't reach across, and even with my 8 Plus I could barely reach the top of that, so I think for me the XS Max would have just been really unwieldy. But this is not a comparison video, we're just going to be focusing on the XS and do a Ruthless review. I'm going to tell you what I like, what I hate, and everything in between. And if you're wondering, no, I did not get this for free. I had to shell out the cash for it, so you know I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, especially with the massive $1,000 plus price tag this year. Now, as usual, before we jump in, I want to give a quick plug to my Instagram account. If you want to check that out, it's just @TheoJoe. I try to post good stuff on there, and the link will be in the description. So first of all, let's start out with the visuals of the phone, what it looks like. Now, the design is essentially identical to last year's iPhone X, with one tiny exception I'll get to in a second. On the front of the phone, you'll notice that like the iPhone X, and unlike the phones before it, there of course is no home button or fingerprint sensor. It's nearly an edge-to-edge display with the exception of that notch at the top, obviously, which has the Face ID hardware, the camera, the speaker, the proximity sensor, and all that. On the sides, there's the usual power button, SIM card tray, volume buttons, and silent mode switch, plus the speakers and the microphone grills on the bottom along with the lightning port. No real surprises yet, and on the back it's mostly the same story. You'll see the dual camera lenses, one wide angle and one telephoto with the flash and microphone in the middle. Also, that tiny difference between the X and the XS I mentioned is that this camera bump is slightly larger than the X. So cases for the X may not necessarily fit the XS. You always want to double check that. As for the rest of the back, it's made of glass, not aluminum, which, like last year's generation of iPhones, allows wireless charging, something I'm a big fan of. And by the way, this whole thing is water resistant with an IP68 rating, so it can be submerged under 2 meters of water for up to 30 minutes, which is actually pretty darn good. Alright, now back to the screen on the front. This thing is a 5.8-inch OLED panel, just like the iPhone X, and unlike the IPS panels used in previous iPhones before. The resolution is 2436 by 1125 at 458 pixels per inch, same as the Max. But keep in mind that this is a wider aspect ratio than what is standard, so technically it's a larger screen, but it's not as wide as you might be used to holding the phone regularly, and holding my iPhone 8 Plus again just feels massive by comparison. That all being said though, the pixel density is obviously great, and you can't see individual pixels even looking up close. And being OLED, there are a few advantages, one being that the contrast ratio is awesome. Because of the way OLED works, anything that is supposed to be black is actually pure black. The pixels are just off. And as for brightness, I tested using my light meter, and this OLED screen is actually significantly brighter than my 8 Plus on max settings, having a 700 lux reading versus 540 lux on the 8 Plus. And that was on pure white image, no true tone or anything, max brightness, so that's actually surprising because usually OLED isn't as bright as IPS. The colors are also very vibrant with OLED 2, and it is an HDR display. However, I will point out that the OLED screen is usually noticeably warmer than on the 8 Plus, especially when True Tone display is enabled, but you kind of get used to it. Another bad thing is that there is a huge blue shift when you tilt the phone off axis at all. So off-axis viewing is really not accurate. Overall though, I still would say I'm satisfied with the screen, and I mostly like how much brighter it is. Next, let's go over the internals of the phone, the hardware you can't see, and the processor of this phone is Apple's own A12 Bionic. Apparently it's about 15% faster than last year, but the GPU is supposedly 50% faster, and Apple also bragged about how much faster their neural engine is, but that's only going to be for certain uses like augmented reality. So it is faster than the 10 and the 8, but probably not noticeably, except for graphics intensive games. For storage, you have the option for either 64, 256, or a whopping 512 gigabytes. And I personally went with 256 because 512 was definitely overkill, for me at least, but I'm definitely glad that they offer it for people who might take a lot of 4K video or something like that. In any case, 256GB is still a ton of storage, and I love having that much free space and not having to worry about running out of space ever. As for RAM, they actually upgraded it to 4GB this year instead of 3GB like they did last year. So thank you, Apple. That's one of the things I thought they skimped on before. 4GB puts them right in line with other flagships, though you might argue that since the price is way more than other flagships, they should have added even more, but that's typical Apple. But when it comes to battery, this is what pissed me off the most. Apple claims the iPhone XS has 30 minutes more battery life than the 10, which in the grand scheme of things basically means it's the same, but the battery is actually apparently smaller than the 10. It's 2659 milliamp hours versus previously 2716. Apple, just stop it. Put bigger batteries in your phones. This is getting stupid. Seriously, a smaller battery? You might be wondering, does it really matter? And yes, it does. My iPhone 8 Plus I thought had great battery life. Not amazing, but I didn't really have any complaints. The XS, on the other hand, has noticeably shorter battery life, so it's usually 50-50 on whether I feel like I need to recharge it at some point during the day or not. And I tend to keep my phone on low brightness too, so it'd be even worse if it was on high. Anyway, let's move on to some more specs. Inside, we also have Bluetooth 5, which isn't super new, but it's still a lot better in terms of range and bandwidth than previous versions like Bluetooth 4.0, if that's what you're still using. And this phone also has a new modem capable of gigabit LTE if your carrier offers that, or probably just faster cellular in general. And I definitely saw crazy download speeds, like 150 megabits per second or more, though upload speeds were still nothing special. All right, so let's move on to performance, starting with the camera, my favorite part of almost any phone. And the camera this year seems to be the same as last year, but the software is the main upgrade here, supposedly, with a new feature called Smart HDR. And they're basically finally trying to catch up with Google Pixel's camera processing, where it samples multiple frames, then combines them with the picture taken to reduce blown out parts and increase dynamic range, supposedly. For the most part, I found the camera to look just as good as previous year's iPhones. The pictures are obviously all gonna turn out really nice as you'd hoped. I found the Smart HDR feature worked alright, though it's probably best for things like landscapes and outdoor shots. I don't think there has been a huge jump in camera quality from the previous year, if at all. Though the sensor pixels are supposedly slightly larger, which always helps. Basically, the camera is just as sharp as you'd expect, the quality is just as good, but I don't think it really holds up still against the Pixel cameras on Android. Those things are just outstanding. When it comes to video, like the previous generation, the XS is capable of 4K 60 FPS, which is crazy, and also slow motion with 1080p at 240 FPS, though the bitrate of the 4K 60 FPS is still only about 55 megabits per second. So while it uses the much more efficient H.265 codec, for 4K 60 FPS, that's still a really low bitrate. Before we move on though, we have to mention the front-facing camera. Now, iPhones, I think, usually have the best front-facing cameras, and they have a slightly longer focal length, so your face looks less distorted. And on the XS, it also looks good with good colors. But for some reason, Apple decided to apparently add this weird post-processing to selfies that have gotten a lot of attention. Basically, they add this smoothing effect to your face and kind of adjust your skin tone, and in some case, make you look super airbrushed. And I noticed this a bit myself, and you can see when I compare it to the iPhone 8 Plus camera, it does kind of make me look almost more plastic or something. And the worst part is you can't turn it off at all, so hopefully Apple changes that in the future. Okay, so let's get on to battery performance, which I kind of touched on earlier. On my older iPhone 8 Plus, I was really happy with the battery life, but on my iPhone XS, it's noticeably shorter. Not super short, but noticeably shorter. Now, I understand that it's a smaller body size, so it can't fit as much of a battery, but still, just make the phone like a millimeter thicker, Apple. Literally no one will care. If I've been using the phone even somewhat heavily, I will definitely have to charge my phone if I want to do anything in the evening, and I usually find myself limiting how much I use the phone for fear of using up too much battery. With fast charging, it's not really a big deal, and it can charge very fast with quick charge, like easily at least 50% within 30 minutes. The only problem is Apple doesn't include the fast charge cable or charger with the phone. You have to spend like $50 more on the 29-watt USB-C wall charger and a USB-C to Lightning cable, which is an absolute joke. And I'm definitely calling Apple out on that BS. Also, for some reason, there's no indication that you're fast charging or not, so you just kind of have to trust it. The iPhone XS does support wireless charging, but keep in mind that it is going to be typically a lot slower than with a cable. Alright, so now let's get to possibly the most important thing about any phone, the user experience. And beginning with how fast is this thing using it? Well, obviously by this point you should know that it's going to be as snappy and responsive as any other flagship, if not more so. It simply doesn't lag at all. Most phones these days, when you get them new, they're not gonna lag at all, and the processors are fast enough where even after a while, they're not gonna lag. And with iOS 12, which is actually a great upgrade, this thing is screaming fast. When it comes to the replacing of the home button, I was really worried I'd hate it. Now, I'm not talking about the fingerprint sensor for now, literally just the home button functionality, which has been replaced with a swipe up gesture. And to my surprise, I actually do like it. It really feels naturally smooth to just swipe up and away from the bottom of the screen. The only thing that is slower is app switching, which I found was a lot easier with the home button to just double tap. But now you have to kind of swipe up further, then hold it, then swipe some apps away. It's just something you actually have to think about doing and make sure you hold it long enough and swipe up far enough, where before you could just double tap and not think about it at all. Still, it hasn't really been a deal breaker for me. As for the notch, it really doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would, because most videos are 16:9, so they don't actually fill up the wider aspect ratio screen, so the notch doesn't cut into most videos. But it does for wider videos. One thing I don't like though is that with the notch, there is no way to show the battery percentage like you could on other iPhones. You have to bring down the control center to show the percentage, which is annoying. I'd rather it just show the percentage instead of the battery symbol at all, to be honest. Now, when it comes to the removal of the fingerprint sensor, yes, that really pisses me off. I think Apple should have just put it on the back like so many other Android phones. Fingerprint sensors work awesome on the back, but instead, Apple decided to double down on Face ID. Now, Face ID works okay, but it is slower than the fingerprint, no doubt about it. And whereas before you could just press the home button, hold your finger there, and automatically unlock the phone to the home screen super quick, now you have to go through so many steps. You have to double tap the screen to wake it, then let Face ID unlock it for you, then swipe up, and so it's 3 steps versus 1. If it had both Face ID and fingerprint, it would be great, but I don't like how Face ID is something I have to actually think about when using. I have to look and wait to make sure it unlocked, then swipe up. You have to like time it. It's so annoying. And other problems I've had with Face ID is it doesn't work when the phone is too close to your face. Like if you're lying in bed, you have to hold the phone away and make sure the pillow isn't in your face and all that. And the biggest annoyance is that it doesn't work with some of my sunglasses, which I guess blocks my eyes too much. So it refuses to unlock unless I would turn off the require attention feature, which I don't want to do because then someone could just unlock your phone without you even looking at it. So my take on Face ID is that if it was an addition to the fingerprint sensor, it would be awesome, but because it isn't, it frankly sucks and is only barely tolerable enough to keep using. Though there are other things I do like about the XS that not many other people have been talking about, namely the dual SIM capability, which I actually think is a killer feature. Obviously, there is only one physical SIM tray, but in an upcoming update, you'll be able to use both eSIM, electronic SIM, and a physical SIM card. So you can have 2 phone numbers on one phone and set which contacts will use which numbers and all that. So this is awesome if you say have a work phone and a personal phone, or you travel a lot and need a foreign SIM card and a domestic one, or you just want one phone number you can give out and don't care about it getting spammed or something. Though apparently the second phone number won't be able to be used with iMessage, which is so stupid. Hopefully Apple changes that. Still, if you are someone who uses two phones for any reason, this could easily be enough of a reason to upgrade. Another thing I really like about this phone is just the size. Like I said, coming from the 8 Plus, it was hard to reach the entire screen with my thumb, and the XS seems to be the best of both worlds here, and it's noticeably less wide, so I can actually comfortably reach my thumb all the way across it and actually wrap my fingers around the other side securely instead of having to kind of rest it on my fingers and risk dropping it. And obviously with the edge-to-edge screen, it doesn't feel any smaller, even though the screen isn't really as wide, because it is a lot taller. So I definitely prefer this form factor. Of course, there are things I definitely do not like about this phone that could have easily been avoided by Apple. First of all, this one is just a disgrace, but Apple did not even include a Lightning to 3.5mm headphone dongle in the box anymore. It's literally a $1,000 phone, and they couldn't throw in a dongle that probably cost them $1 to make. Seriously, Apple, screw you for that. I'm not kidding, that is not cool. Also, I don't like how they don't include the fast charger either. Fast charging legitimately works great, and it would literally improve every iPhone user's experience if they included it, because I don't think many people even know it's capable of fast charging. And finally, I am still waiting for them to add 120Hz refresh rate to the screen. That's another thing that would be a killer feature, but apparently there are maybe issues with OLED and that, or they're just keeping that feature in the bag for a future iPhone. So let me try and wrap things up. Some things I've mentioned that I especially like about this phone are the huge storage options up to 512 gigabytes, the dual SIM capability, the form factor, and the great as always camera quality. Some things I definitely dislike is the barely satisfying battery life, Face ID as a mediocre replacement to the fingerprint, and of course the $1,000 plus price tag. So overall, in conclusion, this is what I think. The iPhone XS is definitely a good phone, probably even a great phone, but not an amazing phone, even though I think it could have been. If you already have an iPhone X, it's definitely not worth an upgrade unless you're paying for Apple's upgrade program. And if you have an older iPhone, the main benefits will be the different form factor and screen, the dual SIM card, and that camera upgrade, like I said before. I would personally not consider Face ID a benefit or an upgrade. So if none of those things really excite you, I definitely would wait at least another year. Maybe if the price wasn't so ludicrous, you know, it could be a different story, but Apple really took prices to the next level without taking features along with it. Of course, if you have a really ancient iPhone, like 3 years older or more, you definitely will find this a massive upgrade, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. And that's about it. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you want to keep watching, you can check out some other videos I have on here. And again, I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys, so thanks so much for watching. Be seeing you.